Welcome to the Death Doula Duo. I'm Jennifer O'Neill.
And I'm Sarah Kovash.
And this is where we explore the profound mysteries of life and all things death.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, welcome. We are here today with Deborah Atella. She is the author of the best-selling book, Is This Job My Jam? The Guide for Grown-Ups Who Still Don't Know What They Want to Be, and the podcast, I Freaking Knew It, which I freaking love, by the way.
Welcome, Deborah.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
In today's episode, we are going to talk about Deborah's near-death experience and how that helped to transform her outlook on life.
And whatever it did and however it was. I look forward to hearing it. So,
yeah, we don't want to,
it was just
it doesn't need to be
years
structured
ago.
that way. Oh, okay. Okay.
20. It was just
20.
the 20th anniversary last Wednesday, the 15th.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Nice.
Mhm.
And I bet that milestone is important.
It's crazy to
Yeah.
think that it was that long ago when it feels,
Yeah.
some days it feels like yesterday.
I bet.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could, just as a little, icebreaker, if you could describe your near-death experience in just 3 words, just to give us a preview, what would they be?
Out of the blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It was a shocker.
Yeah. Well, can you take us back to that
Sure.
moment? And
Sure, absolutely. So all the way back in 2005, I was 36 at the time, mom of 3 little kids, healthy, happy, like really no problem, medical problems going on, except that I had heel spurs and plantar fasciitis. And if anyone knows anything about those,
yes,
they are
I do.
We both do.
excruciating. Oh, right. It's awful.
Yes.
So at the time, I was taking a prescription anti-inflammatory drug. And you have to understand, I never take anything ever, but I was in so much pain, I couldn't stand it. The medication that I was taking was being recalled, and they were taking it off of the market. And my podiatrist switched me to an over-the-counter pain reliever and told me to take double the dose, that would be considered the prescription strength. So I did, and my foot felt fabulous. It felt way better than it did on the prescription medication, and it was doing great. Except that I went to bed on a Friday night, healthy, just, had this foot thing going on, and I woke up bleeding to death.
Wow.
So I had a GI hemorrhage.
That's
And
scary.
yeah, it was not a pleasant situation. So do you want me to go into what that entailed?
Sure,
Sure,
whatever you're
yeah.
open to sharing.
So, all right. So this might be a little TMI for some people, but I woke up in the middle of the night. So first of all, let me back up. That night, my husband and kids, we were all watching TV. We didn't want to watch, and my husband wanted to watch. So I went and took the kids, and all 4 of us were in my bed. At some point during the night, the baby, who was 4 at the time, and my oldest, who was 10 at the time, made their way to their beds. And then my middle guy, who was 7, stayed in my bed. And I wake up in the middle of the night and my stomach hurt. I felt like I had to go to the bathroom, right? So I go in the bathroom. That morning, I had a uterine biopsy done because I was going to have a uterine ablation done. So I had a biopsy done, and I go to the bathroom, and all blood comes out of the back. And I was like, oh my God, what did he nick? He nicked some, in my mind, right? So I go to the bathroom, I get back in bed, I wake up a little while later, feeling like I have to go to the bathroom again, and I go, and more blood. And then I woke up and I was on the floor of the bathroom. And then I woke up and I was in the bottom of the shower and had fallen through the shower doors.
Oh, wow.
And it was then that I realized, oh my God, I'm passing out. So I threw the shower on to there was blood everywhere, get the blood off of me to revive myself. In the meantime, my 7-year-old, who's in my bed, does not wake up, and my bedroom was not big, and my master bath was teeny. He was right there. No one hears me in the whole house. falling through the shower doors. So I make it to the top of the steps and I go to call for my husband, and his name's Jeff. And I think I'm going to be like, Jeff. And all that comes out is Jeff, like this little whisper. And now I'm like, oh, I'm like, what is happening to me? So I
So
keep
you're
trying
just
to
like,
call
you
him.
got weak all of a sudden, or?
Yes. What I don't know is I'm blue. What I
Mm.
don't know is that I lost almost all of the blood in my body, right?
Oh my goodness.
So my 10-year-old wakes up, hears me, and I'm like, go get daddy. So I go and sit back in the shower. Now, I had just had this bathroom remodeled. This is January 15th, and the contractors left December 23rd. And all my crazy self could think was, this couldn't happen before they ripped this bathroom out. How am I going to clean this? There's blood everywhere,
Right. So
right?
you're still fully there with
I'm there. I'm
the
annoyed.
inconveniences of life. Yeah.
100, I'm a mom in a way. I'm like, this is so annoying. I can't even believe I have to deal with this. So my husband comes upstairs and it's in the middle of the night. And he's like looking for me. I'm in the bathroom and he starts screaming for my son to get the cordless phone. Like that's how long ago it was, the cordless phone. We saw
So
the house
did he
phone.
just have a feeling and come up there, or did he
No,
actually
'cause
hear you?
My
She
son
sent
went
her
and got
10-year-old
him.
there.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. So my son went to get him. So he comes screaming for my son to get the phone. And I'm like, who are you calling? And he's like, 911. I'm like, what for? He's like, Deb, you're blue. And I'm like, oh, and I'm so ready to have an argument. Like, no, I'm not. And he's like, Deb, you're blue. So he
So
calls
you're like,
911. He calls my best friend who lived right near us, and he calls my mom. And I'm like, what are you calling them for? And he's like, Deb, we're going to have to go to the hospital. Like, just calm down. So 911 comes. No one's listening to me. That the blood didn't come from the front. The blood came from the back. And I don't know what's happening. So now they have to scoop me up. I have to go to get in the ambulance and go to the hospital. And I say to them, there's like 3 hospitals nearby. One's terrible. One I really don't know about. That's the closest one, the one I don't know about. And then there's one that's fabulous, that's further away. And I tell them where I want to go. And they're like, yeah, no, you're going to the one you don't know about. And I'm like, no, you have to take me to this other hospital. They're like, honey, you're not going to make it. And then I'm like, well, you don't know about me. And they're like, oh, we know more about you than you do right now. So they take me. And so they take me, we go to I'm in the emergency room. And it was very strange because they put me in a room, not like, if anybody's familiar with an emergency room in a hospital, you're usually like in a bay, right? Like you're not like in a room with your own bathroom, right? It was like this private room in the emergency department. And they put me in there and, doctors, nurses, everybody's coming in. It's this whole big thing.
And was
And
your husband in there with you?
he was in there with me.
And were you still thinking like, what is happening? Was this the surgery? Was this?
So, right. So my husband's like spitballing all these ideas. What did you eat? Do you think that it was from the biopsy that you had today? All these things. And I'm going, I don't know. I don't think it was this. I don't think it was that. What could I have eaten that would cause blood like this? So then
I don't think that would be. I don't think that's how it works.
And then was the medical professionals weighing in on this?
Right. So the doctor comes in and he says to us that they needed to monitor my heart and they couldn't monitor my heart in the room that I was in, and that they were going to move me to another part of the emergency department and they were getting a room ready for me in ICU. And I say, I'm not going to ICU. I have to go home. I have little kids. I can't go to ICU. My tree was still up. Okay. I'm like, I have to go home. And he's like, you're not going home. And I sit up and I'm like, I have to go home. I'm not going to intensive care. And I sit up and I throw up and I pass out. And what my husband said happened was that I came back around, they got me out of bed and started to walk me out of the room. When they started to walk me out of the room, I passed out again. They sent him to the waiting room and they whisked me away.
I can't imagine that they would have let you get out of bed.
Exactly.
So I'm like, what room could they have not just wheeled a stretcher into?
I have no idea. So what I know happened is I tell the doctor I'm not going to ICU. I throw up, I pass out, and I'm in the light. And I knew it. That white light that people talk about. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in the light. And it was the most crystalline, white, bright light that you could ever imagine. And in it, it was like I could taste it. It was so white and it was full of love. I could feel it. And so this is 2005. My cousin Laura was killed in a car accident in 1992. And we called each other Bud. And she was behind my left shoulder. And I knew it. And I went to turn to my left to look at her. And I was like, oh my God, Bud. And she started to push my left shoulder. And she's in full physical form. And I can turn my head and see her, but I want to turn my whole body and hug her. And she's pushing me and she's pushing my shoulder. And I'm saying, stop it, Bud. Let me hug you, Bud. Let me hug you. And she won't stop pushing me. And she's pushing me and pushing me until she pushes me so hard that now I wake up and I'm sitting in bed. I'm sitting up in bed and a nurse is saying to me, lay down.
And you're like, wait, I just got pushed from the other realm.
Right. I just got pushed out of heaven and now you're telling me to lay down? So now Laura is there, but she's not in full physical form. She's like in energy form. She's like a little ball of energy, like Tinkerbell, like that little light flying around.
Like in the room with you that you can just sense. Yeah.
Yep. And she's all over me and I could feel it and I could see it. And it's like this, like whoosh, 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 whoosh. She's flying all over. She's everywhere, checking everything on me, checking like all the machines, everything in the space that we're in. And I'm like, what are you doing? You don't know anything about this. Like, you don't know anything medical. Like, what are you doing? They bring my husband back and I'm very animated, right? And my husband in life in general, it's how I am. And my husband's very calm.
Now I wish we had you on a recording.
So my husband's very calm. Is there cursing on this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my husband's very calm and he's not a cursor and I'm a cursor. Okay. And he comes back and I'm like, oh my God, Jeff, do you see Laura? Do you see her? So now this poor guy, his wife like is dying and now she's seeing dead people. And he's like, he goes, dead? Shut the fuck up. And he doesn't talk to me like that. Like, he doesn't talk like that. And
You should have said, Laura, get out of here.
Wow. And he's like, they're going to put you in a straitjacket. Like, just shut up. Shut up.
Censor yourself.
Right? And I'm like, oh my God, all I want to do is like talk to her, right? And like have her, I'm like, she's not talking to me. Why is she talking to me? She doesn't know anything. What's she looking at? So now he's like, just shut up, shut up. So now they come and get us and they take us to ICU and she's like off. She just like takes off. She's down the hall. Now she's in the elevator. She's all over the elevator. The elevator opens. We're on the intensive care floor. She's like right in the room, down the hall. She's all over the room. They bring me in.
So her energy is just staying with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And she's just everywhere. Okay. And now the nurse comes in, a doctor comes in, and a group of surgeons come in. And all I want to do is like look at her. And I'm going, look at her, look at her. And Jeff's going, stop it, stop it, stop it. Listen to them. So they come in and this, like the doctor that was on call was just, thank God it was her. And the nurses were just angels. And the doctor comes in and surgeons are behind her and she throws them out. She's like, she's 36, get out. We don't know anything yet, get out. So now they They're like, you're going to need a transfusion. And then I'm like, I'm not going to have that. No, thank you. And they're like, you really don't have a choice. You need a transfusion. And I want to know whose blood it is. What do they screen it for? Could I get hepatitis or AIDS? And the doctor's like, honey, here, weighing her hands, like, here's your chance to get hepatitis or AIDS. Here's your chance. You're going to die. Put your arm out. My husband's like, put your arm out. Put your fucking arm out. Just put your arm out. They give me transfusions. They start running all tests. And the whole time, Laura is there. At some point, I realize that she's like a little energy ball, like Tinkerbell. And I realized that my father-in-law, who passed in 2000, and my brother-in-law, who passed in 91, are sitting on the windowsill in my room.
Like little
nope,
light
they're
beings?
Like they're full-fledged
physical humans.
Form.
Yeah.
Yep, sitting there. And I'm like, oh my God, your father and your brother are sitting right there. Do you see them? He's like, seriously? I can't take another word out of you today, please. And I'm like, they're right there. They're right there. So it ends up that I have to, they send me for all these different scans. They gave me 2 transfusions immediately. I ended up having 2 more. They ended up giving me a colonoscopy, which is really fun to do the prep on a bed when you're not allowed out of bed.
Oh, yeah.
That nurse, I swear, whenever I come into a lot of money, I will find her. She was amazing. And then I had another nurse. So I threw up, right? That first day, and my hair was really long, and there was like throw up in my hair, and my hair's on a knot on the top of my head. And I had another nurse who later on in the week washed my hair, snuck me out of bed and washed my hair. I will hook her up too. And so it just was, I had a reaction from taking that over-the-counter pain reliever that clearly says don't take more than's on the bottle, but I did it because my doctor told me to, cause the bleeding. And I was in the hospital. I got there on a Saturday, and Laura and my father-in-law and my brother-in-law all stayed with me until Wednesday night. And that's when they knew that I was going to be okay. Finally, it was Wednesday night. And all the bleeding had stopped and I was okay. And Laura stayed there 24/7 from Saturday till Wednesday night. And my father-in-law and brother-in-law were there whenever my husband was in the room. So it was really clear they were like support for him. And what ended up happening was when they gave me that colonoscopy, I'm 36, I didn't have any polyps, everything was fine. And I had to have a repeat colonoscopy in 5 years. So when I was 41, I have a repeat colonoscopy, and now I have precancerous polyps. And I don't even know it's still the same way now, but it was at 50, you have to, you start getting colonoscopies.
Right. I think they're trying to change it to 45, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it is.
And they
45.
should, right?
Yeah.
And so it ended up saving me from colon cancer because that would have went undetected until I went for my first
50.
colonoscopy. Right. And I would have ended up by that point, 9 years after that, with colon cancer. So it ended up being a gift. When it first happened, it like rocked my world. I was really healthy. I was really fit. I had just got certified to be a spinning instructor. I'm working out all the time, taking care of these kids, taking care of this house, and, doing whatever I want. And it took a year for me to recover, for me to really get back to normal.
Physically.
Or, yep.
All of it. Yeah. I mean, and just let me go back to what you were saying about the energy, because what that brings up for me is whenever I had a home birth. And so whenever I had my child at home, I felt like that energy was going around all over the place. Like I was just seeing like wisps of light. And it wasn't like, I don't think me, dying or anything, but it was like just that veil was thin, from him being born at home. I didn't have any medication or any distractions, in the hospital. And so that just really reminded me of that. And I would just lay in my room and just watch that and go, wow, this is amazing. Like he has like a welcoming party, is what it felt like. So
that's beautiful.
Anyway, yeah. So a year to recover physically. And then what was going on? Because it sounds like you were like kicking and screaming through that whole process in a way of just like, my life, you know, here, and then this is happening. And then, so how did that affect you, you know, emotionally? And
So it's completely freaked me out, right? Like, I went from, we never talked about, what we wanted if we died. And I'm, like given orders and rules and don't ever do this with the kids and do this. And I want this and I don't want that. And so that was completely like it, at least then we had to have hard conversations of like, God forbid, if one of us dies, like this is what, we would want done. And
right, right.
It took something extreme to make that happen.
Yes. And while I was in the hospital, the day before I got out of the hospital, like my favorite great aunt died. And then over that year that I was recovering, five like influential women in my life died. One of them being my grandmother, who was like my main person in life. So it was like I could never get my footing back of like, I'm just going about life as normal again,
Because it's like grief after grief and
grief after grief. And then the most grief.
Yeah.
Right. Like the most grief when my grandmother died. And it put me in like a really, I'm not gonna dark, but that's not even the right word. Like it just put me in like a not okay headspace for a while. Right.
Well, that's what I wondered. Like, did it change your perception of reality and time and things like that?
So everyone kept saying to me, when they would find out that I had this experience and I saw Laura, my brother-in-law, my father-in-law, and I was like, was I surprised? And I was, no, I wasn't surprised. They would have been there if they were alive, they would have been at the hospital or tried to be at the hospital. And also like it started to bring up things from when I was a kid, like being like really intuitive and really having, like experiences. My mom's brother died when I was a baby and he was 19 and I was like 6 months old or 7 months old. And I spent my whole early childhood in the cemetery. My grandmother would go to the cemetery every day and take me. So I had these like, and she would tell me that Snow White lived in the cemetery. It was my favorite story when I was little, so that I wouldn't be scared. And I believed her. Like I thought, oh my God, this is awesome. All the the mausoleums were like the 7 dwarfs houses. Now
oh my God.
Right. I can totally see doing that.
Yes. And like it's a Catholic cemetery, any statue of Jesus was like, Prince Charming. And like the angels are the 7 dwarfs. And I believed her. And I thought it was great. And we were poor. We didn't have mausoleums. We had regular, grave. But I would like be traipsing around the cemetery. And which is not a good energetic thing to be doing. But I always just like knew things and I knew things about people and I would get in trouble as I started to get older when I was a kid for saying things that I knew. And I would tell my mom things. I'd be like, oh, so-and-so is going to ask you for money. They're coming over again. They're going to ask you for this, or they're doing this, or they're doing that. I just knew stuff and I would get in trouble. So I learned how to like keep my mouth shut. Try to keep myself safe if somebody was creepy, but keep my mouth shut. And so it started to open that whole part of me up again. Like, oh, like energy is a real thing.
Yeah. And it reintroduced you to the intuition. And that's actually what your podcast is about.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Yeah.
And, in order to trust your intuition, to listen to it, you have to be able to trust yourself. And there's so many times in my life, where like I just, got like an intuitive hit about something and I didn't listen, I didn't follow it. And being able to trust yourself enough to listen to it and then, take the actions that you need to take the actions, whatever action it is that you need to take, and knowing the difference between what is your intuition and what is your ego. And which one, is the one to listen to, your intuition. And how do you separate the two? And how do you be able to trust yourself? What are things that you can do that you'll be able to trust yourself enough that when you get this intuitive hit, that sounds crazy, like to somebody, that's not you.
Can you
How do you
share with
follow it?
us?
Like,
Yeah.
um, so I had a situation where about 5 years or so after I hemorrhaged, we had an opportunity to buy a business, and we are not like buy business people. We are blue collar people. Like my husband and I raised our kids on construction worker salary. Okay. And this situation came up to buy this retail business. And I instantly knew we shouldn't do it without knowing anything, right? Any of the financials, any of the particulars. I was like, should I do this? And instantly my whole body was like, no, full stop. Right. And then I kept all this information was given to us, blah, 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 blah. And I would be like, well, we should try. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do that. But when I would check back in with myself, the answer was no all the time.
That's huge. That is, I mean, I feel that a lot.
Yes.
Exactly
But
what you're
did I
saying.
listen to it? No.
Oh, no.
No, I didn't listen to it.
So you bought the business.
So we bought the business and ended up in over $300,000 worth of debt.
Oh,
Wow.
no.
Which we didn't even have that money. It was all mortgaged,
Right.
So just like my hemorrhage, right? It ended up being a gift. It saved me from ultimately from having colon cancer. Me, that time not listening led me on a path to actually like where we are today, me being on here with you, because it made me start to pay attention to, oh my God, the answer was no. Every time I checked in with myself, I didn't listen. And look how I ended up. And it started to, I started to pay attention to, well, what's the difference between intuition and your ego? And how can I get myself to listen and follow my intuition when other things are brighter or shiny on the outside sometimes? And then it led me to being able to start my own business. And we had closed the store. The lease was up on the store, which was a reason that I agreed to buy it, because I knew that I could get it out within a few years. The lease would be up and I didn't have to renew it. I ended up doing that and going to work for a friend and managing his business. He had a optometry practice. And then I was like, it ended up me being so what's the right word? Because I loved working for my friend. I had so much fun, and everybody that I worked with, and we were like, it was like a party every day. We laughed so much, but I was not settled like inside of myself. And I knew like I was meant to do something else, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And so I was like, I have to get quiet, and that's really hard to do. And I made a deal with myself. I had to meditate every day for a year. And how was I going to stick to it when I couldn't even stay alive every day of my life? How was I going to keep this promise to
I gotta just
Right?
live. So is this like what birthed like your coaching business
Yes.
and your and the book you wrote and
everything. So it all like ended up leading me to here.
wow. So you got guidance on doing that, and now you help other people to listen to that. And
I do.
That's awesome.
Like just keep a little promise to yourself every day, even if it's like just hang your coat up when you come in and you don't throw it over the chair, or you put the laundry away. Like just start keeping promises to yourself, because we always will let ourselves down. And it starts to build your confidence. And by me keeping that promise to myself to meditate every day, and at that point I had been meditating for 5 years, but not every day. And I did it every single day for a year. And, that my out was it only had to be for 1 minute. And some days that's all it was. And some days it was for a lot of minutes or just a few minutes. It increased my confidence so much that I was like, you know what? I can figure stuff out. I can do this. And it led me to being able to move on and like getting coaching certification and start taking clients on the side. And while I was still working for the eye doctor, and to me, starting the business.
that makes
curious
sense.
if you had what kind of religious beliefs, if you don't mind sharing, did you have before the near-death experience?
So I was raised Catholic. And I joke that I'm like conveniently Catholic. I pick what I believe and, or what I want to,
Leave
I'm
the
not a
rest, sure.
church. I'm not a big church person.
So did the near-death experience change that?
It didn't, because I always believed that we go somewhere else. Like I always believed there was heaven. And that when you die, that your loved ones are going to be there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did it just reinforce it, I guess?
It didn't make me have stronger faith. It's like a weird thing.
Well, I think it's kind of cool that like it didn't shake your spiritual foundation, but yet it still led you to more like inner truth and
yes,
like the path that you needed to be on.
Yes.
And so I think a lot of times different griefs can, provide that, like that gift you were talking about of leading to something bigger that we need to see.
Yes.
Well, we really appreciate you sharing that story. That's an amazing story, that the path that it led you down and all the things that have happened because of it are really fascinating. And I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us and share the story, because it really is. I hope that other people hear it and find some encouragement in it.
Have you connected with other people who have had near-death experiences that were similar or just also had led them to a spiritual kind of awakening? Or
so I've only really connected with one other person, and their experience was way deeper than mine.
Okay.
Like way further beyond the veil than mine.
Okay.
And like I didn't see my body. Like, like people say they saw
like
their
up
body
above or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I didn't have that experience. And this other person did. And then they are also ended up being a coach and an author.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you could leave our listeners with one takeaway about life and death, what would it be?
Life is really, really short. Like it can change in the blink of an eye. Find something that you do in your life that brings you joy and go and do it. It doesn't have to be your job. It can be your job. But you should have something in your life that lights you up. And it's never too late to try something or make a change.
I love that.
Like that.
How can people find you if they want coaching or, and then can you say again your podcast and your book?
Sure. So my podcast is called I Freaking Knew It. It's on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, all the places that you listen to podcasts. You can find my book on Amazon, Is This Job My Jam? The Guide for Grownups Who Still Don't Know What They Want to Be. My website is just my name, DeborahAtella.com. And I'm on Instagram at Deborah Atella.
Okay. And we'll put those links in our show notes so people can find you there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It was so nice to meet you.
So nice to meet the both of you as well.
Awesome. We will talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for joining us. And until next time.
Thank you for joining us as we journey through life's most enigmatic reality. I'm Jennifer O'Neill.
And I'm Sarah Kovash.
And we are
the Death Doula Duo.
The Death Doula Duo is brought to you by the Possibilities Podcast platform.
If you have comments, suggestions, or would like to be on the show, please email us at thedeathdouladuo@gmail.com. Until next time, may all your discussions about death be lively.